Hello.
Oi,
Back again, number 6.
you lucky people.
And a special edition, but more about that shortly.
Yeah, so back to podcast 6 of Addictive Tendencies with Mr. Monotone and Lightning Jack.
Mrs. Monotone.
What?
Oh, I thought you were Mr. Monotone and I was Mrs. Monotone.
Oh, right, yeah.
Ah.
Sorry, I thought you were calling me.
Okay, no.
No, it's not.
So you're Mr. Monotone, are you?
Well, I thought, listening back again, I've not got any. But literally, when I do the edit, you can see on the levels, my wavelengths are far more monotone, literally monotone, if that's what it means, than yours. Yours hit the edge. You've got a lot more edge to your voice.
Well,
more extremes.
You know what, Mr. Monotone? I am the light to your shade, or the shade to your light.
So this is Addictive Tendencies, and for those who've not tuned in before,
Why not?
yeah, where have you been?
Yeah, fools.
We're going viral. We've gone viral.
We've gone massive since podcast 5. I think we've doubled our listeners up to 20 now.
20.
Yeah,
wow.
big stuff.
That's over-egging it, I reckon.
15, yeah.
Including my mum and your... Yeah. But what it is, so we sort of came up with the idea of doing this and to sort of show the light and shade areas of life generally, and we try and tie in addiction because that's what we both have an interest in as far as what we work in.
Yep.
And if you have an interest in addiction, or if you see things our way, that maybe there's a lot of life that can be thought of in addictive terms, and that we all have addictive tendencies. And in my mind, it's what links pretty much everything, and
It's what connects us all.
perhaps really. So the general scope of the podcast is to sort of talk about pretty much anything. But if you are tuning in specifically to listen to about addiction or mental health, that may be like the last half hour. We tend to get into the meat of the beast.
We start off light and fluffy, and then towards the end we go to the juggler.
We stroke the beast to start with, and then we devour it at the end. We get real stuck into the meat. The meat and 2 veg.
Beautifully put. So
think of the first hour as the foreplay, and the last half hour.
I thought you were going to say the second hour
as the only last half hour.
Okay.
as the gone too far.
Oh dear. Oh.
Alex, you said to me you had more insights about turning 40.
So I turned 40 in August, and I think in the last podcast we talked about how it wasn't a big deal for me, but it seemed to be people saying, "Oh, you're turning 40, and I'm like, right, okay. And then it started to bug me based on other people's fears. But since I've turned 40, the big thing that's happened is like starting to think about my health. Because I'm quite a big guy, I'm overweight, and thinking, you rarely hear about people having heart attacks and strokes and the like in their 30s. I've crossed that threshold now, and I'm in a new age bracket, and I'm in my 40s, even though I'm 40.
People will no longer be drastically surprised if you die.
Exactly, almost overnight. Yeah, and I was just thinking, shit, I need to take a lot better care of myself, and that's something I've been trying to do recently, and that's going reasonably well. But it started to really eat away at me, that whole kind of being in my 40s. Like you said, if I died overnight, people wouldn't be as surprised as when I was 39. And thinking, and I did feel quite a pang of anxiety about that, and thinking, I don't want to be a negative statistic. What's funny?
It's just people at home on the radio won't understand why you just said sorry.
I've just kicked.
Just because Alex is playing footsie in this beginning part of the podcast.
Maybe we should,
as we said,
maybe we should film it as well so people can see what's going on.
Why is it? You were talking and then you're like, "Oh, sorry." I was like, "Okay."
Why is he apologising for having pangs of anxiety? Because I just touched Phil's foot under the table.
It's fine. We've reached that point. But what are we talking about?
Turning 40.
Yeah, I do. I was thinking about that in the respect that people, when you're young, like adults, grown-ups smile at you a lot. And I sort of think now, as when you reach I think I grew up with an expectation that people were always that friendly.
Yeah.
And when you reach your 30s, or even 20s actually, for adulthood, people just don't give a shit. In fact, you're just totally you're just, what's the word? Collateral, aren't you?
Yeah.
You're just meat in the room, aren't you? Just insignificance of you increases as you get older.
I would agree that when I was younger, looking at people who were a lot older than me, and like my mum didn't seem that much older than me, but people that were in their 60s and 70s, they were over the hill, they were past it. And one of the things about turning 40 is losing that sense of identity, of like being forgotten about. And I think that's why people have midlife crises, because they want to still be part of something, still considered not collateral, but part of society. So they try and claw it back.
Yeah.
Wow, that's quite deep for an introduction.
Yeah, I still think I'm special, like a child does.
Yeah.
I try to hang on to those immature feelings that you have as a child, because I think in a way they're more honest or more. I'm not nobody.
Yeah,
I'm somebody. God damn it!
So holding on to your youth is a big part.
But health, I can relate to you. I've started eating carrots at work instead of peanut M&Ms.
Oh, I love peanut M&Ms.
Yeah.
Oh.
But one's gonna kill me, and one's gonna. It got me wondering, because like obviously, if you eat lots of M&Ms, you put on weight.
Yeah.
What happens if you eat lots of carrots?
Well, they haven't got a lot of calories in it, so yeah.
You turn into a rabbit.
I knew someone was going to go down the Bugs Bunny route.
Sorry.
Or I thought you were going to say you see in the dark. The old chestnut.
Our regular listeners will have noticed that there's a third voice.
Third voice in the room.
Third voice in the room.
Shall we introduce them?
Yeah, absolutely. So we'd like to introduce our friend Lisa to the podcast. Lisa, welcome.
Hello.
It's great to have you here. So just to explain to people that if you hear a third voice, it is Lisa. Don't be alarmed. Don't be concerned. We've been wanting to get Lisa involved for a while. She's a listener of the podcast, and we've known her for a good while. And we've kind of worked together, worked in the same kind of circles. And it's great to have you here. So a big old welcome all the way from the US of A.
Yeah, did our listeners detect that slight accent from where?
Pennsylvania.
It's a long way to come. Did it take you long to get here?
How was the commute?
It was a bit of a drag.
Pennsylvania via Suffolk? Where would it be? Where's your...
I live in Hertfordshire.
Hertfordshire, I should know that. Well, welcome.
Don't give your address.
No.
Or your phone number. I did that. Podcast 1, murder. I was beaten away with a stick.
But we know each other from... Where do we know you from, Lisa?
From work. So we know each other from work.
From work. Oh yeah, we didn't. Sorry, I just set her up straight away a little bit. And you passed the test.
Yeah. We don't want to give out too much information about where we work or where we live because for safety reasons.
But we all met at our charity where we used to work.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And where I still work, and where Lisa still volunteers. Mm.
Would you like to say anything about who you are?
About who I am?
Yeah, so basically we're going to need an hour from you of life story, content, and
who I am. In a nutshell.
In a beautiful little nutshell.
In a little nutshell. Let's see. My identity at the moment. I'm a trainee counsellor.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, in the mode of analysing myself during my training. Not meticulously, but thoroughly. So I'm getting to know myself at great depth.
You always strike me as a very thoughtful
person. When we talk off air, as it were. I don't know why I did an American voice there. When we talk normally, I like how you add great detail to your anecdotes.
Great detail. Could that be paraphrased into?
I'm keeping it positive.
Okay, cool.
You said talks a lot, but
I do have a bit of a way of elaborating my thoughts.
Are you saying you lie?
No, elaborating. I share a lot. I give a lot of information, and I am trying to become more clear and concise. But I do realise that I'm long-winded.
You're quite analytical.
Yeah.
But I didn't realise that comes from you actually analysing yourself for your role in counselling.
Yeah. I think naturally I am that way.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of suited for the studies.
Well, understanding yourself is maybe a better way of putting it than analysing.
I suppose.
Cool. So that's us. That's the three of us. Okay. So we're going to quickly revisit something we did a podcast last time round. Celebrity impressions. And granted, I was a bit shit in celebrity impressions.
Or bananas.
Bananas. So it was I had one Billy Connolly impression, which was good. And then
awesome.
And then
I'd never quite managed to phrase just how good that was.
You're a very kind man.
Unbelievably good.
But that's like that's me all over. I stick to what I know, and I don't like to come out of that. So I'm going to try something else. Okay.
But the way we're going to do this, right? We are literally going to play this like a game. One word, the other person guesses, and we don't know who wins really.
Well, if I guess more, I win. If you guess more,
because
but if they're good impressions,
good, everyone's a winner.
Everyone's a winner. Let's just. Do you want to go first?
Okay. No, you go first.
Okay. Bananas!
Say that again.
Bananas!
Okay, I'm going to guess.
Yeah?
Joe Pasquale.
It is Joe Pasquale.
It's really loud.
Bananas!
It's like really,
you did get it, though.
I know. It's just quite high pitched, but yeah.
Bananas! Like he's having a sad day. Bananas.
That's good.
Okay, you'll go.
Are we sticking with the word bananas as well?
I think so.
Okay. Try and test it.
Lisa, if you've got an inkling, just shout them out.
Okay.
We're not going to subject you to...
You may not know. Do you even know who Joe Pasquale is?
I've heard of him.
He's a TV entertainer.
Oh, it's terrible.
Oh, he's funny in his day.
I remember us. Okay.
Come on, Mono Man.
First one.
Mr. Mono.
Bananas. Actually, that didn't sound anything like him.
Noddy Holder?
No, it's not. I've got the wrong city.
Okay.
Let me try it again. Bananas.
So it's Birmingham, yeah?
No, it's not meant to be
Liverpool.
It's
meant to be Liverpool.
It could be Liverpool.
Okay.
Shit. Let me try again because I'm.
Oh, okay.
Let me try. I think. Let me try a different word. Oh, the thing is,
Paul McCartney. Paul McCartney.
It's terrible.
All you have got to do is think about the most famous person from Liverpool.
Yeah. How did I get Birmingham then? Bananas.
Okay. Here's mine. Bananas.
Sound like you're going to sneeze.
He's stuttering.
I'm going to have to hear that again.
Bananas.
It sounds like the Who. Do you know?
Who stutters?
I don't know. It sounds like my generation.
Someone who stutters.
Daniel Kisson.
No.
Go on.
It's Gareth Gates.
Oh, that's quite funny.
Yeah. Like, it's. I'm not trying to be mean, but I just thought I needed to think of some people that stood out.
Yeah.
You're going. Let's move on
I
quickly.
don't know how accurate that was to Gareth himself. It was accurate to his stutter.
Lisa thought it was funny. I'm taking it.
Okay.
Mister. I met Paul McCartney once. He said, "Oh, it's nice to meet you. How's it going?" Yeah. Okay. Okay.
It's not a glowing start, is it? It's, right.
You said, "Can I have one word for Paul McCartney?" You went with the whole
I
sentence.
can't believe I've got the.
Okay.
Anyway. So next up, you need to get in the zone.
Yeah, you
don't
do. You need a little bit of a. You look so pensive.
I know. I'm honestly trying to get.
You're trying to get into character.
I've gone from Birmingham to where I'm going next, which is not an easy transition. Bananas.
Kermit the Frog.
Cookie Monster.
Bananas.
Mr. Bean.
Bananas.
I don't know. Lisa?
It's because I'm getting it wrong again. That's
Okay.
what's going on here. Bananas.
Homer Simpson.
Oh, Grover.
Homer Simpson?
Some cartoon of some sort.
Bananas. I like.
Oh! Yoda.
It's feisty one you are. It's because I slightly added a few words.
Okay, here we go. Okay, it might need a couple of attempts. Bananas. That's pretty good.
We'll be the judge of that.
It was better than I thought it was going to be.
Lenny Henry. I don't know.
I've taken the
Yeah.
surreal turn.
It's because you were going bananas.
Okay, hang on, it was Scottish. Can you say it again?
Bananas.
That is a Scottish Lenny Henry. Say it again.
Banana. It does sound Scottish. Bananas. That's it.
Or you're saying he's not Scottish.
No, he's not. No. Bananas.
I'm afraid. Is it a cartoon character?
No, it's not. No.
So, can you go again?
Bananas. It sounds worse with every single time.
Can you say another word? Because
Get out of the chopper.
Oh, you went too far.
You were never going to get it with another word.
No, would I? If you'd said
Lemons.
you'd said the detonators.
Okay, go on. Let's speed this up. Got two more each.
hang
No,
on.
you've got three.
I was just trying to think of it. No, I can't.
Okay.
I could do Arnie. Right. So, again, I'm getting in the zone, so that's what this pause is. I have to go back. Sorry, I was going to give you a blatant clue there. So I have to go back to the this era.
Back to the 60s.
Bananas.
Oh, that's very generic. It feels like it could be spot on though. Oh, Michael Parkinson.
Oh! Out of the park.
Yeah.
I like to think that was.
Yeah.
And the next guest.
Yeah, that's why I got it. Yeah.
Welcome to Bananas.
Mm. Okay.
So, Mohammed, the next guest is Billy Connolly.
Ladies and gentlemen, Roller that just sounded like somebody from out Coronation Street.
So, our
Okay.
next guest is Billy Connolly.
So I've got two more.
You're not taking the bait.
Oh, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me. Right.
Oh, was it, Billy?
Okay, you ready?
Okay, yeah.
This is my fourth.
Yeah.
Bananas. And it's not.
Okay, shh. I'm just absorbing. Bananas. Is that Jerry Adams?
That's it.
TUC.
Absolutely. He died recently.
Huh?
He died recently.
No.
That's Martin McGuinness.
It's the Unionist Party.
All right, let's not offend people. It was.
Sorry, that's what I thought.
No, it's- we did quite well. We've got a couple more to go.
Yeah. Bananas.
I was going to do Mick Jagger. I was going to do, hi, Bananas.
I think it was possibly the visuals with that.
No,
maybe
it wasn't
gave
that.
me a clue,
No, it wasn't.
because I was
It
sort
wasn't.
of pouting on my lips.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't.
Bananas.
Hey, Alex. Okay.
Well,
Okay, here's my final one. Yeah. Bananas.
that sounded a bit like Parkinson's.
Yeah.
Bananas.
Oh.
Poor old Lisa.
Wogan.
It is Wogan.
Yeah, I was
Is it?
thinking.
It is Wogan, yeah. Look, Terry Wogan.
Very good.
Very good. And your last one?
Okay.
This is going to
How
sound
are these
shit
shaping up,
when we,
Lisa?
when we listen back.
This could be tricky for me, to be honest. Bearing in mind what's happened before. I did think about throwing in a woman. Just to... it might be a bonus. Right.
Deep breath.
No, so I've lost it. I've lost the plot. Let's get in the zone. Bananas.
Sounds the same as the last one.
Yeah, they all sound the same.
Bananas.
Is it somebody out of a soap?
Hey, bananas.
Mrs. Brown.
Stephen Gerrard.
Yes. There's that E. What's that?
Sounds. Okay.
Well, that's that really. Isn't
That was
it?
a lot more successful than I thought it was going to be.
Sunday best is a hangover straight from hell. How did I get here? I really don't feel too well. Coffee for my head and vitamins for everything else. 20 minutes on the website for spiritual health.
Testing again.
Just thought I'd do it on camera, on record.
I like it. We should keep it.
Lisa?
Cool.
I don't do falsetto.
Some would say, nor do I.
This is very breathy. I just want to hear.
Yeah.
Sorry. I don't do falsetto.
Who's that?
Are you making
like-
fun of my voice?
That's like Liam Neeson. That's like Liam Neeson does whistle.
falsetto. I have a special set of skills. Bananas.
Are you insinuating I have a low voice?
So you've got her annoyed now. See,
A low voice.
she's gone from breathy to annoyed.
There's nothing wrong with low, is there? Or is there?
I don't know. You
Keep
tell
on
me.
digging. Keep on digging.
No, I think women have quite low, quite softly spoken voices. There's nothing not feminine about that.
Okay.
That's what you're
Well,
really
no, I
implying.
thought you were trying to say I sounded like a bloke.
This is Lisa. Like Roger. Anyway, so back in the land of making up rules for how people should live, which is what position I should be in life.
Yeah.
Is leading this city. Mayor for the day. So it's a section in which we like to sort of discuss if we were in the throne for the day, what changes we might bring, or what's generally annoying us that we want to.
So first of all, I like the idea that the mayor would sit on a throne, but that's just a little anecdote point.
Like Donald.
Very much like Donald. So it's maybe again now that I've turned 40, it's just stuff that I moan about.
Mine have got tinier and more insignificant,
Really?
but nevertheless still infuriating.
Okay, that's to say you're annoyed about them more, but or the same, but they're not necessarily big things.
So I'm saying I've gone pettier than normal this week.
You've gone full out petty.
Yeah.
Can we get
But I like it. It's the way I like it.
Can we get an example?
So you're in a shop. I just think it's been happening for years, but it's happening more and more. I just don't get it. I go into Boots or one of the chemists.
The other chemists.
There's only Boots or Superdrug. Or if you're in this country. And
Super Safe.
you get to the till.
Lloyd's.
Yeah.
And they just ask me, like, have you got a store card? Have I got a store card? And I always have the same reaction. Like, what the hell would I have a store card for Boots for?
The Advantage card they're probably talking about.
They are.
Yeah. They're actually quite good.
Ooh, we've had a counter argument already.
I have a problem with them for various reasons. Without getting too paranoid, I don't like people knowing all my purchases and it being on record.
Yeah, I get that.
But if you do accept a store card for Boots, like, where does it end? Your wallet's going to be full. I've got a store card for Boots, I've got a store card for HMV, I've got a store card for Debenhams, which I have actually, or a store card for M&S, store card for McDonald's. Your wallet.
Yeah.
So, have you got a store card for Boots?
Sometimes
I'm
you
going
see
in to
people...
buy a shampoo.
Yeah.
Why do I need a bloody store card? What's the advantage?
You get points, which is
What's the
actually
points
for
Prizes.
money. I have £100 actually on my
How
Boots
long
Advantage
did that
card.
take?
It didn't take that long, probably because I buy cosmetics and things like that,
How
which
much
kind
would
of
you have
add
to
up.
spend to get £100 worth of loyalty points?
It probably's taken, I don't know, maybe 9 months or something like that to save. But each time I go in, whatever I buy, £100 is quite a lot of money. Then I can treat myself to something.
Yeah.
You've made a good case for it,
Yeah.
but as a single bloke who's just going in to buy his shower gel, it's completely useless. And, in my opinion, I hate it. So when they ask, I really bark back and just say no.
Can you just... No.
I know I said in previous podcasts, being nice to shopkeepers.
Oh, yeah.
That's another thing that's changing. As soon as they go into, have you got the store card? I just bark back, no, fuck off.
Yeah. Wow. I don't know where Daleks are shop assistants, but I want to go there. Have you got a store card?
Which they're clearly under obligation to do, and they're on commission.
The idea that you're paranoid about people knowing your purchases is an interesting one.
Well, that's for years. I've never done store cards.
But I find the internet with the stalking thing is starting to freak me out a little bit, because if you get an email from, say, a store, and you happen to click on it and look, when you're on your social media, they'll all of a sudden coming through there, or they'll send you, I noticed you were looking at this.
It's spooky, isn't
that
it?
really,
Spooky.
I don't like that. I think that's more spooky than the store card.
Yeah, but that wasn't a specific reason to it. It was more the annoyance of being asked.
I met a teacher at the weekend. He teaches English, and I was like, I got my high horse about grammar Nazis. Now, I don't know how I would enforce this as mayor for the day, but I think I'm just putting it in the pigeonhole of things that really piss me off. And my issue is, so things like your or you are, I sometimes misspell, and brought or bought. I went to the shop and I brought whatever. It doesn't matter. It doesn't make any difference. People know what I'm talking about, and it really bugs me that people point it out. And it's like, I found myself saying to this teacher, I went to school in Newton, the standard of education was quite poor, etc., etc. It was. But the thing is, I suppose I could learn it. I don't care. If I said to you, Phil, I went to the shop and I brought such and such, and you know that I've got it wrong, you still know what I mean.
Yeah, I wouldn't correct you on that.
And it's like when I text people and I say, I text so fast and I make so many typos, and I get that this is my issue, as is always the case. And it's like, they send me a spelling thing back with a little asterisk, and I'm like, you know what I meant. Well, it doesn't enrich my life to have the correct spelling of your or you are every single time. And I always use the example of working with Polish people or A8 Nationals as it was at the time, and the guy coming and saying, please, towel. He wants a towel. I know what he wants. You know, and I'm able to say, yeah, there you go. I don't need to say, excuse me. It needs to be, please, may I have a towel? If you want to learn English and improve, that's okay. But just let me get my spelling mistakes wrong and not make me feel like an utter wanker.
Fair enough. I thought that impression was very... when they're writing someone from Eastern European in a film, they often have them speaking in that sort of program.
It is very...
Sir, towel, please.
Please, towel.
Please, towel.
It's sorry, it was a stereotypical Eastern European accent. But
you don't pick people up for geographical, racial, national reasons, no. But I sometimes, I'm a bit torn, a bit on the fence on this one. Because I think it's a curse, because once you know, like when people say the letter after G.
I know what you're talking about there, because it's one of my pet peeves as well.
H.
And my mum says it's not H, Alex. It's,
you said it right.
It's that H.
H.
Yeah. Because my mum says it's not H, Alex.
Yeah.
It's H. Granted, I've made my mum sound like she's quite strict parent, but she says it's H, and I'm like, all right, mum, yeah, cool. And I say it to keep her happy, but
I think
does it matter?
No, it doesn't matter. But we just enjoy correcting people once
does
you
any of
know,
it matter?
doesn't it?
Does any of it? Unless you're learning, the guy that I was talking to that said, unless you're writing formal letters as part of a business, and spelling is important. I don't understand what the big deal is.
No, it doesn't matter. I remember you saying your girlfriend picked you up on the Broughton ball, and it was a bit of a joke. And I think when you're intimate with somebody, when you're a friend with somebody, it becomes funny or it becomes entertaining. So I think that's why I do it, pick people up.
I think, unfortunately, like a lot of things, it taps into that place of being no good at something. And I think, wow, I've lived in this country for 40 years. I can't even get the basic English right. And I think my reason for why should it matter is actually don't show me up.
Yeah. If it's about showing up, it's not cool.
But I don't think people are always trying to show me up. It's like I react.
It's just tapping into your feelings.
The one that winds me up is when people constantly mispronounce Pacifically. I've got a Pacific problem. What?
The ocean.
Bloody just off California.
You know what they mean, though. You don't think.
You think, how have you got this far in life that you can't see the S on the front and you can't be bothered to pronounce it? I don't understand how.
But you know they mean specifically.
I know specifically what they mean,
and that's what communication's about. It's about understanding
I
what
think
the other
being
person's
a
saying.
foreigner here, that I don't always pronounce things how they should, and people like to make a joke of it or belittle you about it. Being American.
That's half the fun, though, isn't it? That's, of sort of banter, I think.
No, it is. But the thing is, as long as it doesn't tap into like a feeling of like that makes me less than kind of thing.
So spirited. I think it's gentle ribbing a lot of the time by people who know you.
Yeah.
And it's like my mate who has bad breath. We did keep saying it until he sorted it out.
That's
which I feel bad about. But at the same time,
I
also feel like we helped him.
Yeah. I'd rather say brought than have bad breath.
But the Pacifically thing, Pacific.
But that for you, that's about not understanding why people get it wrong, as opposed to.
I can't get it. I can't understand.
Do you challenge them?
No, I don't.
Well,
it's not. But if it was someone I know, I would. But anyway. So Lisa, our friend from overseas, from the Pacific, from the Pacific Ocean. I'm not telling you which ocean I mean. The Pacific one. I'm not telling you the Pacific Ocean I mean.
I'm closer. Where I come from is closer to the Atlantic Ocean.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
So you've been here how long?
19 years.
19 years.
I don't remember feeling this sedated, and I'm one step closer to my recovery. Sunday best is a hangover straight from hell.
I was at work today and I was talking to a colleague of mine who's just installed a dating app on his phone, and I thought, oh man, you are at the beginning of a big old journey. And I was trying to give him some advice because I've been on dating sites for a while.
You're an old pro.
I'm a very old pro. Not because I'm an expert, but because I ended up chatting to a lot of people and getting a lot of feedback from them about what it's like, the whole dating scene, especially online, how different it is for men and women. And I just thought, oh man, it's like sending a child off into school for the first time. I just thought, wow. And one of the things the main thing I had to tell him was, when you send a message to a woman, you need to remember that she's going to get a lot of messages. If she seems really interesting and if she's very attractive, she's probably going to get more messages than she can handle. So don't expect it just to be you've messaged her and she's only got one message. So prepare yourself, and
Prepare yourself.
Prepare yourself for kind of rejection.
Prepare what?
Don't just say hi.
And
I
don't
thought you meant prepare your dialogue. Prepare your opening.
Well, you don't just say
A few follow-ups.
Don't say hi.
Don't say hi.
Don't say hi. So when I met my girlfriend, her and I like the same band, one of the same bands. So I said, really nice profile. I liked it. Blah blah blah. That sounds terrible. I found this interesting. Oh, I see that we both like such and such. I really love the song such and such. And then she wrote back, and then that was the beginning of a beautiful relationship. Yeah. And not that I'm an expert
on flirting.
On flirting. Yeah, flirting's not really I think for me, when it comes to flirting, because you guys have both known me a long time, I'm very friendly. Right, and I'm, hi, how you doing? And I like giving people hugs, and I wonder if I come across as flirting when, to me, I'm just being friendly. And the thing about me is that I try to be really encouraging.
I've never taken your friendliness as flirting.
Well, that disappoints me, Mr. Mono.
Often those big bear hugs.
Have people taken your friendliness for flirting in the past?
They've not said, are you flirting with me? And I haven't had people say, you were flirting with her. I think that it's kind of misconstrued. I don't know if Phil was to say, if I was to go out with Phil, he'd say, right, go over to that girl and flirt, and I was single, I wouldn't know what to do. Honestly, I'd like, apart from just being...
You could do it with a keyboard, know how to do it.
Well, it's easier because you know that person's hopefully single and they're looking for somebody, so you've got a way in. But that whole kind of how you doing is not a strength. So can I ask? It is my observation that men are the chasers and the women are the chased a lot of the time. So the men will approach the women a lot of the time. Not always.
That's kind of probably like a social.
That's a social stereotype.
Yeah.
So my question is, do you notice people flirting with you?
Me?
Yeah.
Probably not. Although I think on the flight to the States.
Yeah.
It definitely was a case of that, and then as soon as I tell them, it was sort of weird.
Where does friendliness become flirting?
The conversation started on talking about how he just broke up with his girlfriend, kind of thing. You can feel the way it's kind of going.
It's because it's based on relationships and the.
Yeah, it was just weird.
Did
It
it
was
start
a
with
really
that, or
weird.
was that
Well,
just
almost from the get go, it was kind of like
Mm.
odd.
I had the opposite once at a party. I spent maybe 2.5 to 3 hours talking to a girl that I really fancied, and then right at the end, she was like, "Oh, you should meet my boyfriend Mark."
Right.
I was like, what the helly-melly have I?
So I just stood here
caught
for
up
2
in?
hours.
What have I been doing?
I probably drunk like 2 bottles of wine by then.
Yeah.
Wasted. This is where it starts to sound. Completely wasted my time.
Projection.
Had a lovely time. Complete waste of time though. No, that's not true.
So
I mean, but
and then wait. Bye, Phil. Thanks for the chat.
yeah, thanks for the chat.
So.
So you don't like to just flirt for just the fun of flirting?
No, everything like Alex says, there's a chase and then there's a goal. Then the
So-
lion eventually catches the gazelle.
So you're
let's
goal-oriented.
define flirting.
No, I'm joking.
I think flirting can be not goal-oriented. I think flirting is just like
Yeah, but I
having
guess-
like a moment with someone, which is quite nice.
Flirting is nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. But if you're flirting and I think both of you have to be on the same terms to an extent. You know, I guess that on a night out or a party, when you are sort of like partly thinking, "Oh, this is nice. She's really nice. I fancy her."
Well, people
she shares all the same interests. She could have thrown in like in the first hour.
Throw me a bone.
Oh, my boyfriend Dave.
Yeah.
You know, it's changed names now.
Yeah,
but,
Dave and Mark. That's what's happening. She's dating multiple men.
Perhaps she liked your.
She was enjoying the flirting.
Yeah.
I think she was.
Yeah.
The attention.
Yeah. That's kind of human nature, though, isn't it?
But
Tell me this: if you were in a relationship in your past, when you were in relationships, and you went on a night out with your male friends, and a woman flirted with you, would you fess up that you were in a relationship, or would you just enjoy the banter and the flirting?
I mean, it depends on.
That's a great.
Because it's quite.
Can I just before I answer that, just to say that because I know when guys. There's no expectation. There's no sense of entitlement. I just want to communicate that when you're flirting, I'm not. There's no expectation that leads to. That's not what I'm annoyed about. Or
you just would have walked away and not invested so much
to the the at the end of the the gold at the end of the rainbow.
No, but you thought that it was someone who was.
It's not that I thought I was being dicked about. It's just more. Oh, that's a shame. She could have figured out after hour 2 that maybe this guy quite likes her. Yeah. But yeah, she was enjoying the flirting, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that.
Do you think it was obvious that it was flirting?
Maybe not.
Maybe she just thought you were an interesting guy and we're just like having a conversation.
Perhaps.
So going back.
So what was the question?
Going back to
I just
the
wanted to
question.
make sure it's not.
That's very clear in my head that you don't expect the prize. But going back to Lisa's great question.
Yeah, what was it?
If I'm in a relationship and a girl was flirting with you, would you say? Would you nip it in the bud, or would you be like
mention your girlfriend?
Mark and Dave's
as soon as I'm getting some flirting, excuse me, that is something you should know.
No, but you could do it in a way where like, oh yeah, last weekend I was with my girlfriend in wherever, or
perhaps.
Ego
it
being
depends
massaged.
how committed you are in that relationship, isn't it, and how. Or how much?
Or how good the relationship is, I suppose.
Yeah, if you
maybe you still have a chance with that girl. You should call her, give her a call.
Keep your options open.
I did end up photographing her actually. I was studying photography at the time.
Right. Okay.
So
what were you going to say?
She had really nice eyes, and I used her for a project.
I used her.
I used her.
I was a photographer. I used her for photographs. And she used me for 3 hours of chat.
So
gold.
Without trying to sound like a 15-year-old boy, flirt. What does flirting look like for you? Yeah, because if you go out and we were all on a night out and you had a conversation with Lisa, you're a friendly guy, you're interesting, you show interest in others. I don't know where friendliness becomes flirting without it being really, really obvious, like a hand on the thigh or on the or
unnecessary touching, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's always a sign.
Yeah.
And I think it's it's
Subtle.
nice that you have those little things. I think I'm trying to change a little bit, because when I was younger, it was obvious that I fancied someone because I would hide it at all costs. For some reason,
You'd hit them like you did at school, or pull
just
their bra
linked
string.
into the previous conversation about not exposing yourself.
Steady. We were talking about, Lisa and I were talking about being vulnerable. You were talking about exposing yourself when you were younger.
Do you wear a trench coat?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
no coming back.
Thought of it. Those charges were dropped. Okay.
So you're trying to change the way.
I used to not even smile at girls who I didn't smile, but I used to think all these signs would leak from my very person.
Pause.
Like if I smiled at someone, I was like, and go all giddy and start, or your eyes dilate and all that bananas. Stop it!
Banana. Oh, that's bananas.
Hold back. Don't mention the bananas.
Oh, no.
That's the next level. There's all kinds of...
I'm looking at that bruised and battered banana sitting over there.
There's a banana got here.
Bananas entered the table.
Right, let's keep it wholesome, chaps. Chappers.
I've lost what I was saying.
You're talking about when you were younger.
So I used to. You would know I was flirting because I was trying to feel cool and like, yeah, you're right, yeah.
Wow.
Hello, yeah. Whereas now, I smile a bit more, but I used to worry that it would sort of give the game away. I'll even smile or flirt with people at work, or I might keep bringing up at work, but I'm thinking certain instances where you're not sure whether you can flirt or you should flirt, or obviously you shouldn't. It's not like, you should flirt at work. I'm just saying, it's maybe not encouraged, but if you have moments when you're just chatting and enjoying someone's company, even in a work, having a really flirty meeting.
Have you guys ever had flirting go wrong? You gave a good example of it just being totally rejected after 2.5 hours. She's not even.
Well, she clearly didn't know I was flirting. That was back in the day when I didn't give much away. But
so that wasn't working too well for you.
That's where your conversation about music. That's what the route I would have gone with. But
it's easier.
And she's got all my interests. Tick, 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 tick. But she's not getting the flirting, or maybe she is. But obviously, Dave's at home waiting for her.
And Mark. What about recognising flirting? Because I met this girl a few years ago, and quite a few years ago now, and she came to see me sing, and a colleague of mine said, "Who is that girl at the bar?" And she said she can't stop looking at you, and I was just like, feeds back into self. That'd be silly. And it was true. She really liked me. We dated for quite a while, but I just wouldn't know unless it was really obvious.
No.
It's like when I've been on dates with people, unless they've I know without any shadow of a doubt that they wanted me to kiss them or something. I wouldn't even the thought of because you have to be careful these days.
Well,
you have to be careful, full stop. But the thought of being inappropriate towards somebody. So I just blanket.
That's probably one of the worst things in the world. And like you were saying about guys chasing, I don't know if you've ever done. Well, no, it could go work the other way around. It's great having a lady in the room that we can ask these questions. But have you ever gone in for the kiss and got the cheek, or been turned?
Yeah, I did.
Or not the cheek, just like a.
I did once, yeah.
It's just someone retracting and like coiling up, like, oh shit, I read that wrong.
I went back to a girl's house with her, and we were chatting and drinking into the small hours, and and it was just like you lean in, it was like rejected, and it's like that's probably why I didn't do it unless I absolutely knew. Yeah. Honestly, that stuff makes my teeth curl out of embarrassment.
What, remembering?
No, just that the thought of like when I went on a date with my current girlfriend, if I attempted to kiss her and she wasn't having any of it, I'd just be mortified. I'd be so embarrassed, and also like I wouldn't want to make them feel shit as well. So
So the question to you, though. So, oh no, this is quite a personal question. Actually, do girls ever go for the kiss and get the cheek turned? Does that ever happen? It's quite a personal question. Now I think about it.
You can ask me, but not her.
Well, I don't know about other women.
Or do you
but
wait to
I'm
be
not.
kissed?
I'm more of a
More
waiter.
of a lady, aren't you?
That's what I meant.
You're a lady.
That's what I meant. So yeah, okay. So some people wait to be kissed, whereas I can remember definitely.
Maybe, but you can
quite a
kind of. I think you can tell.
Yeah.
You
Sometimes
can tell
there's
if
signs, and
there's
that's the best kind when you
Yeah.
know.
No,
This is a no-brainer. Here we go.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to date a girl that was a no-brainer.
No.
You know what I mean. You can tell sometimes. I think.
You can tell. I can't tell.
Can you not?
No, I just honestly, it's like that part of me just doesn't.
How do you make someone tell?
I don't know. There's some. I suppose. I think because I'm such a geek that I learn about body language and facial kind of expressions, eye contact, different things like that. Yeah, kind of, yeah. Touches,
touching, like,
laughing. I don't know. There's like.
Oh, Phil. So
But surely you don't
tell.
just
And
know
you can
that.
tell even with friends or like people who are in a relationship. You can tell they're into you. I mean, that girl was into you. She was flirting with you.
Which one?
The one that you wasted 2.5 hours that
I don't know how
had
you
Dave
know.
at home.
No.
Because she stood there talking to you for 2.5 hours.
There was
So she was
chemistry.
into you, but she had somebody else.
Exactly.
So when you're talking flirting or actively looking for a partner, there's a difference. So I think flirting's nice, even if you're in a relationship. I don't see what's wrong with it. I mean, not, you know what I mean. I don't mean actively going out, but sometimes it just happens.
Some people see flirting as cheating, don't they?
Yeah.
So the question about
or emotional bonding
Yeah.
as cheating. So I've read some people do.
Yeah.
But I agree. There's nothing wrong with flirting, except when it crosses that line. So,
But I don't think emotional connection is the same as flirting.
No, I'd like to emotionally bond with people, but not. I think
it's
I
so
connect
different.
flirting with wanting to engage in some kind of date or physical activity.
Flirting is fancying, isn't it? Let's be blatant.
Yeah.
But it's just because I read something about emotional cheating and people.
No.
Recently, that I thought I'd bring that up. But some people don't see that as okay.
Mm.
But if flirting, just to go back to just flirting.
Yeah. But I can
fancy.
only go by my own kind of perspective on things like that. I mean, like you said, some people would find.
Are there
wrong.
ways of flirting without being rejected?
Yeah, just be friendly all the time, and then people will never know.
But I suppose.
I suppose, obviously, this is a male perspective since there's two men that have the same sort of thoughts. Men, if they flirt, it's because there is an agenda. Women, if they flirt, I don't think there is an agenda.
It's more clinical for men.
That's interesting.
Men want an outcome.
Because with me, I used to work. I was a manager in a hotel. I used to deal with guests all the time, and there was a lot of flirting going on, and it was fun. I was married. I was not interested in anyone. I got asked out on I don't know how many dates. We'd want to go for a meal, this, that.
So what's
but
the plan?
it was just I was at work. They were. I don't know. I was being nice to them, but it wasn't flirting as in like inappropriate flirting. It was just like a bit of banter, a bit of joking, a bit of, I don't know. And some people take it as something more.
Have you ever flirted to get your own way in terms of the benefiting in a situation that if you flirt, I don't know,
I
maybe
think in the workplace, stuff
maybe a
is quite
seat
common.
on a not a plane, on a train, or jump in the queue, flattering the eyelids.
Yeah, I was feeling ticket.
That's
Yeah.
not really me, but
No.
I probably have,
Okay.
because I think it's sort of a female's prerogative to kind of, I don't know.
But are you saying to some extent it's more entertainment to flirt, or it's enjoyable, it's a little bit risky, and
I think
there's a certain thrill and a little.
I suppose it depends on what your situation. I think it depends on what you.
Hunt and gather.
I suppose it depends on how desperate you are. I think to be in a relationship,
Yeah.
and desperate's the wrong word. Keen, yes.
Yeah, I need to stop using the hunting metaphor.
It depends if you're
prize, but I suppose because sometimes you're looking for a girlfriend or
something else.
So it's and anywhere in between. That's sort of. I mean, there's a whole spectrum.
I don't. Maybe,
but sometimes it's genuine. You want a relationship. That's
I think flirting is part of just communicating with people, the opposite sex, and it is showing that you have an interest in there, but also, I suppose maybe because it's a female perspective on my part, it would be to the other person to read the signs of that and pursue something. So I always kind of came from a perspective where I wasn't expecting a goal. I wasn't expecting anything to kind of happen. If something did, a friendship or dating or
sorry.
No, go ahead.
What if you are talking friendly with somebody and you want to imply a bit more? What could you do in a safe way to sort of be like, hi, I'm interested? But then if they reject, is there any foolproof ways of doing that?
I don't think there's any
returning back to like, oh yeah, it's not hey, how you doing?
You could style it out, but the thing is, if you don't,
I think once you make yourself vulnerable and put yourself out there so that they can really read the signs, because how you said when you were younger, you didn't want people to kind of know, but it would ooze out, and I think if you...
I was trying to think of like a line, because there is somebody where, I won't mention any names or addresses.
Okay.
But there's someone
So there's someone that you want some good lines on flirting to make it...
Believe me, there's not only one person in the world that I fancy, but there's so this is, I'm not putting all my eggs in one basket, but this particular person that I wanted to flirt with, I was just trying to think of like a line that I could use, or not a line. But... So
you want to flirt with someone, but you haven't done it yet?
No, I sort of did I sort of was trying the other day, like just like trying flirting. So sometimes it takes a bit.
What's
of
your
practice.
attempt of?
I think I said something along, because I'm giving away too much detail. But I probably don't listen to the podcast. But it's someone I see fairly often, and I'm quite often causing them sometimes the less details, the more dodgy it sounds. So let's say it's in a sort of work scenario. So it's vague enough. But basically, I cause them a few problems work-wise, and they have to sort out my problems. If that makes sense, the context. I don't want you to think there's another scenario.
So you can have contact with them. Yeah. So you.
No. That's not what I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
That's not what I'm saying. Okay. I'm saying, so it's a work scenario. So that makes it clearer.
Okay.
Because there's no girl out there in the world that I'm causing problems repeatedly. So I have to narrow it down. It's work.
Okay.
But I said to her, "Oh, you must hate me coming here." But I said it, and I thought, well, if she does like me, she might. This will cause her to have to oh, I couldn't hate you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
So did
that's how I
she?
sort of imagined.
Let's go out.
And is that what she did?
And then, but I thought it was safe enough that it was like I can come back from this.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is definitely safe.
You know, you must hate me coming here all the time, mustn't you?
Straight over it.
But I can see as a woman, you might not even
Did
pick
it
up
sound
on that.
flirting? Yeah. No.
No,
It was me. It was
I-
me flirting, but
It depends on.
because I thought I'm constantly talking to her about the issues that we deal with, like I'm not going to name the specific issues. But I was trying to get it off the issues and back onto us in the room.
Okay.
Hang on, forget about these things.
It's
There's
just me and you, baby.
There's still a boy standing in front of a girl, asking them to love them or to fancy them. So that was what I was trying to do there, to try to draw it back onto the man-woman thing, and I guess that's what
Yeah,
I'm trying to do.
but you might need to do more than once.
Yeah,
on
I
that.
know. It's a repeated mission.
Might have to be a
Ste-
dating.
it's
You might
Well,
just have to
dating-
start bringing her like chocolates or
dating,
something like
flirting
that,
tasks.
or
It's
coffees,
stealth. Has to start stealth with you.
Start off slow.
I don't remember feeling this sedated, and I'm one step closer to my recovery.
One of the things I wanted to talk about in these podcasts is sort of like the sort of worlds of weirdness that you get into in your own mind, like, and like one of the sort of states of mind that I think is quite pervasive with people, and certainly with me, is like that sort of fucking sod's law area where everything happens to me, and why this again?
Yeah.
Oh!
Yeah, sorry, go on.
No. That's,
What's interesting about Sod's Law is we tend to compare our insides to other people's outsides.
yeah.
So to a degree, everything does happen to us.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Good and bad, because it's us. We're experiencing the good and the bad. So there is a case for why does it always happen to me?
It's also
Because
human nature to kind of focus on the negative as
it
well.
is, definitely.
Yeah.
There's only one of me, and I've only ever been me, so I would only ever experience the bad things so personally. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Or I think Sod's Law, is it also known as Murphy's Law?
Murphy's Law, yeah.
Or something else. It's sort of like what can go wrong will go wrong.
Yeah. Or throwing your arms up in the air, typical.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's
Do you think it happens to you more than anyone else?
I think no, I don't. But I think that.
'Cause I do. I think it happens to me far more than other people.
But I think a lot of people would think that because they're experiencing it only for themselves.
In fact, it's only happening to me. Everyone else is just whistling and going about their day, and I'm just
So it's like Phil has only ever known Phil has only ever lived that pen leaking in your pocket. But it happens to me all the time. But because you only experience it for you, it would feel like.
Yeah,
It literally would only feel like it's happened to you. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, should I elaborate on that? So I kept thinking I need a new pair of jeans.
Yeah.
I wasn't happy with my pair of jeans; were too slack, and I thought I'd treat myself to a nice new skinny pair of jeans that look good with a nice jacket and can wear out. It's on the smarter side of jeans. Going out jeans. So I bought these within 1 week, but I've got a pen leak.
Yeah.
And so I've got this blob.
But how often does that happen to you?
Huh?
How often does that happen to you?
I've only just got these pair of jeans.
No, I mean, how often does it happen to you and other pairs of jeans?
It's happened before,
Yeah.
but not with a brand new pair.
Yeah.
Livid. No, I wasn't livid, but it's just fucking hell.
It's interesting that because it's your fault, isn't it? Because I am a man who has an ink spot on nearly every single pair of jeans, but that's my fault. So that's not sod's law. That's down to me. I think external things could be like, why does it always rain on my boat?
Pens don't really leak that often. I've only had it happen like twice in my life. Or twice, I don't know. Not many.
It's very accurate.
You can count
it's very specific.
only a couple of times, and this is like the second time. Luckily, it seems like a blue stain on a blue pair of jeans. So I thought it would wash out, but it bloody hasn't. It's not that noticeable. It's not ruining my life.
It's interesting that though.
Do you have any examples to hand of sod and his law?
I think that when I was drinking, it was less sod's law and more self-pity, and I think self-pity is born out of genuine pain. So that's a bit darker.
Well, I think addicts,
yeah,
I think experience this a lot. That's why I suppose partly relating it to the podcast. Like I think everything does relate. These gripes that get you do relate to addiction, because I think people in addiction are worse at dealing with their problems, and these mind traps that we all fall into. I think they're even worse, and they're even more stuck.
So it's interesting that you say that the
amount of addicts that come in and are like, oh God, they reel off a list of things.
Yeah,
it's like, this sounds like sod's law, and I'm not going to go into that sort of. This sounds like me and my pen leaking.
But what is really interesting, about that is that you're not suggesting that it's all in their head. What you're suggesting is that we all experience
pain.
In
everyone's head.
But maybe I had poor ways of coping.
Yeah.
So I think that self-pity. And they say that self-pity is the number one reason why people who are in recovery from alcohol relapse. Self-pity is very, very closely linked, almost intertwined with genuine pain. So it's a comfort. It's a very unhelpful one, self-pity, but it's trying to comfort something. So I like the way that you state that, it's these things happen to lots of people, but addicts particularly don't deal with them as well, rather than saying
it's like making themselves a victim, kind of.
So that's been labelled at my door by my counsellor, that there's victim mentality. So I think that maybe I had my fair share of hardship like everybody else, but my coping mechanisms were crap.
And once you've got that victim mentality, it's very handy. Not handy, but it's
kind of an automatic pathway, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Something happens, and then automatically you just go off on this self-pity or whatever, rather than finding other mechanisms to kind of draw you back.
And I think part of it is like a sense of entitlement, or a thinking error, where you think the world is going to be automatically nice to you, or you think everything should be good, or everything, like on TV, everything turns out good.
It should work for you
better, and I think it's a bit of a denial that life is hard and life is tough and bad things happen to everyone. Also thinking they all happen to you, or a joke I heard the other day. It was like, how many? I might get this wrong. How many addicts does it take to change a light bulb, or how does an addict change a light bulb? Something like, it only takes one because the world revolves around him.
I told you that.
Did you? No, I heard it somewhere else.
Well, it's not my joke.
Yeah. Right, I think it does the rounds in the.
I think mine was more about self-centered. How many? How many Alexes does it take rather than addicts? But that's there's a lot of truth in that. But the victim mentality is a very, very interesting one.
Do you remember that time when we were in a restaurant preparing for the podcast? Once I met you, and I pointed over to this. Sort of delved into. We were going to touch on how these sometimes it feels like you're living in a film or like a Truman Show type scenario where someone's laughing at you or watching you from above, like a divine comedy sort of thing. And I remember I pointed over to the waitress.
It's a very attractive waitress.
I fancy that waitress over there. She's just my type. And you know, I think you were like, I don't really understand what you're saying there, but she's just cute, like, in a sort of nice waitressy kind of way, just cute, you know, had her hair up, little, you know, as they do, and then she started coming over, and it was like in slow motion. She came over. I can't remember what she was coming over for. And then at the same time, the guy delivered the other waiter delivered our food. And he, as soon as this lady came over to say hello, and I was just about to say something, the guy from my right spilt a plate of eggs on my lap.
Put your plate down and slightly spilt it.
It was like poetic. I saw her coming, and I was gonna like have a little eye contact and not exchange a number, but do.
The beginning of something.
It was. I could see her coming. I was like, "This is my moment. This is my moment." And
wow.
Maybe he felt the energy because maybe like he had his eyes on her.
Yeah.
Maybe he just bustled in and said, "Oi, I'll put these scrambled eggs on you."
Eggs on my crotch.
Yeah. It's not quite what you were hoping for.
I suppose it could have been an opening line. You could have asked her to clean it up.
Yeah.
Excuse me, waitress.
I should have seen that through a bit, but I shouldn't have given up so quickly.
Yeah.
There was an opportunity missed. But that felt like, why does this always happen to me? And why in such a tragically comedic fashion, like someone's playing with me?
Yeah. For the entertainment.
Yeah. But that made me. Do you ever feel like that sort of Truman Show? It's like a famous film with Jim. Is it Jim Carrey?
It's Jim Carrey. Yeah. I think that film really stuck with me. The idea that I am part of something, and I don't truly believe it. It's interesting. I believe in God. Which is almost a dirty word sometimes. So I believe that everything that I do is seen. But the idea of being part of something like the Truman Show, and I think I've mentioned before that when I see terrible things happen around the world, and when I see people that I know, die or not so much die, but kind of relapse, and I think to myself, part of me would like to believe that they're actually extras in the show, and they haven't really died, or they haven't really relapsed. That they're all in on it to make it so convincing. And of course, I don't really believe that to be true. I just accepting the fact that really awful things happen isn't as nice as thinking actually everyone goes home at the end of the day and has sweet lives. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think that's just it. Though life works in mysterious ways, and it does. Bad things do happen. So to expect it any other way is,
In recovery, especially the last 2 years, I've really felt that life has been working for me. And I met with my best friend, and he said to me, "You still complain about things?" And I said, "Right." I said, "But that's a character default." And an issue with my self-worth and my fear and my anxiety. It's like no matter how good life could be, to a degree it's not going to be enough, because there's a core part of me that thinks that this is too good to be true, or it's going to be taken away, or why have I got it so good and other people die through addiction, or why did I have to go through this? People say to me often, well, the great thing about being an alcoholic in recovery is that you can help other people. And I say, well, yeah, but I like the idea that none of us had to go through that.
It's not realistic.
No, of course it's not. But I don't like the idea of somebody having, having to go through something extreme to then help somebody else.
Okay.
And like just getting back to God, just very quickly.
Yeah.
My issue is, what's it all about? Why do we have to struggle? Well, Alex, you get to help people, and I was like, well, yeah, but what would have been nice if people could just sit around, eating eggs on toast, having it poured into our crutches all our lives.
I think that the struggle in things kind of makes the sweetness in the other stuff. I don't know. I think if everything was just all perfect all the time, I don't know, how boring would that be, really?
Yeah, I agree. Some of the best holiday stories are what goes wrong, I think.
Yeah.
I'm still talking about the time in California that my mate jumped out of the car and didn't come back, because that's the most interesting part of, rather than, we saw the Golden Gate Bridge. It's not a great anecdote, whereas that real tension and conflict is the most exciting, or it's the most.
Yeah, I think things like that. But
do you remember the
pain and
films
suffering.
National Lampoon's like vacations and like the Griswold family everywhere they went, like the grandma would die, so they'd attach it to the top of the roof of the car, and but I don't know, that's kind of like the beauty of life. I think they're taking the good with the bad, and
plus I really enjoy a moan.
Yeah.
And it is sometimes entertaining, catharsis of a moan. And I don't know, talking about the Truman Show, talking about God or spirituality, I sometimes think these things are sent to test us, or to test me, and that's why I sometimes hang on, where's the hidden camera? Now, maybe my reaction shouldn't. Sometimes, full on tantrum moments,
Well, it's interesting that we live in a world that there's so many YouTube channels dedicated to pranks and hidden camera shows, and it was like Beatles. It was Candy Cameron and Beatles about growing up, and it puts it in your mind that is this real? The good and the bad. Is this real? Does this really happen? I just to be clear, for me, it's I really enjoy the light and shade of life. I think like real pain. The kind of quirky, the light stuff that I like, but I think I could kind of I prefer to live in a world that didn't have so much pain and war and misery. I think we could still have the light and the shade.
Without it having to go so much into the darkness.
So when I go and see my mum, and she's thrilled that I've got nothing to tell her, I just turn up and I'm sober, and I just think having a normal relationship with my ma is so much better because I put her through such hell. If I put a gun to her head, which I wouldn't, she'd say, do you know what? It's nice now, but I could have done without it. Do you know what I mean? I could have done without that light and shade. So I'm talking about the kind of the extremes. I like the kind of, if you bring it in a little bit, I like the kind of quirkiness and the ranting or the ranting and the moaning and stuff, but the kind of genuine pain and the suffering, I think we could still have light and shade about all of that. And I'm not talking about living in a perfect world.
No, I get that.
I think just on Sod's Law, because I do think it's a thing that is humorous, or there's stuff to find humour in it. That it can be twisted in a positive way, really. But I think also a way of, it is a thinking error, and I think you can unthink by rationalising and like in a CBT ways to sort of break down rationalising your thoughts, and hang on, this does happen to everyone. There's just been a few instances lately where I've realised it's not Sod's Law, and there's situations that I could have totally avoided.
Yeah.
Like the other day, just this week, no, it wasn't yesterday, it was the day before. And this could have been Mayor for the day equally. Don't ever sit. There's certain seats I don't sit in the bus. Because I stupidly, and I never do this, it's happened to me twice now in life, I sat in the priority seating.
Right.
And then I started having a little whiff, like, I can smell, that smells a bit like piss. And yeah, sure enough, I got home and I took my jeans off.
Oh, you sat in it?
Huh?
You sat in it?
Well, yeah, it's the seats where the old people sit. And just a bit of life for it, advice really, don't sit in those seats. And the other seats, it's happened to me once, another time where I sat at the back of the bus at the top, but I sat in a totally wet patch. Like, it was like not even vague. The one this week was some vague remnants of piss. This was full on puddle. And yeah, just something to, it wasn't Sod's Law, it's just something to be avoided. So just to say, that track is My Recovery by The Adjustment. Many thanks to Lance and the gang for letting us use that. It's a favourite song of mine.
Great track. We'll see you next time.
See you guys.